Cape Town is a world-class city in Afrika.
Hoekom is daar nog niks aan ons paaie en infrastruktuur gedoen die afgelope 15 jaar nie? Hoekom nie?
Imisebenzi ayikho la eNatal. Yonke isekhona.
With the ever-increasing fuel and energy prices, the implementation of e-toll and the rand declining against the greenback, the consumer will really struggle. In the context of civil engineering, does SAICI still have a voice? SAICI Civil Talk.
Electronic tolling, e-toll, of the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Program, known as GFIP, has become controversial. The process was halted following a court interdict. The Deputy State President and a team of ministers appointed to review the process. The trade unions have voiced their opposition to it, and grave concern in all of this has been expressed by the Minister of Finance in respect of non-collection of toll revenues. And so government is now looking at an appropriations bill, which might take another 12 or 18 months, to finance SANRAL in the interim period. So the debate or conversation this afternoon is around the implications surrounding e-toll, and it's my pleasure to introduce the team to discuss that this afternoon, and a special welcome to our guests. First of all, Wayne Duvenage in Afrikaans, Duvenage, we've had a little bit of fun with that this afternoon, who's the OTA chairman, that's the Opposition to Urban Tolling Alliance. You've read a lot about that in the press. Welcome, Wayne. It's really great for you to be here this afternoon. John Sampson, many of you know John is a qualified civil engineer and transportation engineer. He's the MD of Triple T Africa, and he's written a lot on this in the last couple of months. Had interest also when he was with Johannesburg Municipality many years ago about the potential to toll. Dr. Malcolm Mitchell, many of us know Malcolm, is the Executive Director of the South African Roads Federation and was with SANRAL many years ago.
Before SANRAL.
Before SANRAL, I know it's before SANRAL. And then Gerard de Villiers, who's a logistics specialist and transport planning manager with ARIPS. He wrote in an article recently that the views he expresses might not be what Arabs would agree with, I think was the words he put. So we've got some quite interesting team here this afternoon. I'm looking forward to it. How would infrastructure in SA be affected by SANRAL default? In other words, if SANRAL's not able to meet its commitment on loan repayment, and what would the implications of that be to South Africa? Should the Court of Appeal, should the court have appealed the court order, or should it have said no, let the thing be? But obviously that has now got a life of its own. And why did civil society react so suddenly and so much in the recent months? Should Thuli Madonsela probe the e-toll contractors? We know who it is. Is there something there that we might think that needs to be looked at? Should the e-toll scheme continue around the country? We do have toll roads currently, but is the opposition just in the urban area or is it across the board? And the whole issue that took place around Nizia Ali's resignation and then his return to office. Perhaps we might want to touch on that. And there are other things in our minds as well. So what I would like to do is for each person to present their case or their view in about a period of 2 to 3 minutes, and I'm going to start with Wayne. So Wayne, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. So it's in the pack, but just to give an overview, ARTA didn't exist about 4 or 5 months ago, and we're a non-political organisation, an alliance of a number of entities out there, Savrala being one, but the road freight, the retail motor industries, Tourism Association of South Africa, KwaZa. There's actually quite a broad spectrum of members. And our intention is to halt e-tolling in Gauteng as it has been put forward by SANRAL, whilst at the same time not to destroy the fragile process of funding towards infrastructure upgrading that is so needed in this country. So we have no political agenda, as is often said, and it is not our intention to destabilize credit ratings. A lot of people get pleasure out of thinking that this is what we want to do. We want to be destructive. That's certainly not the case. We're certainly not opposed to infrastructure upgrades, and we're not opposed to tolling in the format that we've come to know, long-distance tolling. This is a different set of criteria and parameters that are being applied in the e-tolling of GFIP. So why did we challenge it? It is purely around the administration costs related to e-tolling. And these costs change. The costs that we get fed back from SANRAL, from Treasury. In 2009, the ETC contract of 8.3 billion for the first 5 years. That was changed to 6.6 billion in the 2011 GFIP Steering Committee. And still today, we do not know what the costs of collection are. What we do know is that the high cost of collection was certainly not considered when e-tolling decision was made. And that's been borne out in the court process so far, and is still being done so in the review process that's taking place right now.
So the primary issue, as I see it, is how best do you fund public infrastructure and services? Do you use a tax route or the pricing route? Now, this has been discussed for more than 250 years, since the days of Adam Smith, probably the first major economist in the world. He advocated the pricing route. Now, there's pros and cons for both routes. Both routes can work and have been used, but to a large extent, it depends upon the government's political economic philosophy. Are you a socialist state? Are you a capitalist state? Are you a communist state? So it depends. So those factors are very relevant to how you finance public infrastructure, as well as the ability of governments to do it if you want to go the socialist route. As I said, both routes are feasible, but there's inconsistency. People accept, and I know when mentioned water and electricity being charged by use, specifically by use, but not for roads. And I'm not talking about all the roads in the country. I'm talking about the primary arterials where they are likely to be. In other words, a mixed financing approach. Because it's almost certain that the majority of roads in this country, 90% or more, are going to be financed into the future through the tax route, the mixed financing approach. And that tax route might not be a fuel levy. I'll come to it later on, because there's growing concern throughout the whole world at the diminishing tax base of the fuel contribution to the tax base. It's predicted for various reasons that it will be 20% less by 2025. So it's not so. All right. The price routes have been adopted for 30 years or more with a great deal of success. I know we're not talking about Gauteng. We can also talk about Gauteng roads. Toll roads generally in this country are often far better condition than non-tolled routes. I'm not going to argue the reasons for it. There are many factors are relevant there, but there's no shadow of doubt toll roads and worldwide are generally in better condition than non-tolled roads. The approach has been confirmed by all sorts. It was first, there was a committee of, select committee of Parliament in 1980 that, at the request of a Treasury, investigated this, and it's been confirmed by many studies since. National Transport Policy Study in 1996, Moving South Africa in 1998, RISRA in 2006. So it's not a new thing, and it has been confirmed on a regular basis over the years, in this country at least, and in other countries. Now, the criteria that are generally used or considered when you look at road financing alternatives, I won't go through them in detail, they're in the pack that you have, but they're basically adequacy, equity, efficiency, and simplicity. Those are that's a sort of summary of about 15 to 20 countries with the criteria they use in looking at road funding alternatives. There were 5,000 people at least polled a few years ago on this proposal. Because 28 responded, Wayne suggests that that's not a very good poll. It's a very good poll. What it really says, that only 28 were against it. If someone says to me, do you want to pay more for roads? And I'm not, doesn't bother me, why would I react? In other words, only 28 out of 5,000 were against it. I'm just saying how you can manipulate statistics. The user savings, we mustn't forget the user savings, amounts to billions of rand per year from the increased, improved road system. Now, around, if government's got money rolling over years, it can finance it from the tax base, so it doesn't have so. But I think it's more, the issues taking place up here are more an objection against government at this stage, or whatever people are objecting against government for. And I'm not going to go into it. The media will know all about it. Possible re-election of President Zuma. For example, the labour broking issue was tied to the Gauteng system in the first March. I couldn't think of anything more different. So to me, it looks like a general objection against government.
But the first point I'd like to make is that I don't think the objection should be to e-tolling per se. I think it should be to tolling as such. And the reason is because it would be pretty much unthinkable to not go the e-tolling route if we are going to toll the freeways in Gauteng. I did a rough calculation, and I reckoned that you'd need 50 conventional toll booths to handle the two-way traffic, 25 toll booths in each direction, if we have to put up the conventional type tolling on Gauteng roads. So, to me, the discussion anyway, and what I'm going to be talking about, is tolling as a source of financing for roads, not e-tolling. E-tolling is essential. If we're going to toll roads, we have to have e-tolling in Gauteng. The second point I'm going to make, and it's probably the main reason, in fact, the only reason, there is only, to me, one reason why we have to have toll roads, and that is to have roads at all. And I've been involved in financing of roads both from the City Council side and over the last, as I say, 30 years. We basically would not have seen any major new roads being built, except possibly by the private sector, if there were not tolls. And that's the fact. Government did not give SANRAL the choice and say, would you like to toll the GFIP project, or would you like to use the fuel levy? They were simply said, you want to go ahead with the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, we approve it, it's a very good scheme, we want to go ahead with it. You will toll it. That is how you're going to raise the money. They weren't given a choice of yes, they might have suggested alternatives, but effectively, if it wasn't agreed at Cabinet in 2007 as a toll route, I extremely doubt, in fact, I'll lay bets that it would not have been approved as a project. So, it's something which the engineers in this country have had to deal with. We've had to say, do we want to improve our road infrastructure for the country's economy, for the country's good, in which case we have to toll the roads, otherwise there's very little chance. And I can tell you, I was actually, prior to the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, I was chairman of the team which developed the GFIP. We called it the Freeway Improvement Scheme for Gauteng Province. And the reason it didn't go ahead was because there was no money. All the schemes were in place. Everything that SANRAL are now doing had been taken over from the freeway, the provincial freeway. But because SANRAL could toll, that's where it went. Now, that said, basically toll roads have no advantages over conventional roads. There is no physical, infrastructural, operational advantage that a toll road has got simply because it's paid through by a toll. The benefits of toll roads are not related to how it's funded. The reason that the toll roads are well maintained, are well covered, is because they have been well funded. But if they were well funded through other means, like levies or taxes, that would still give you the same benefit to the public. In fact, toll roads have a disbenefit because conventional toll roads certainly stop you, they delay you, you have to get money out and so on. So they actually delay the traffic, whereas so it's not the method of funding that makes the road good. It's the fact that it is funded.